My name is Jacques. Welcome to the channel. We recently sat down with a South African director called Jaco Minnaar to interview him about his gothic horror chiller drama film called POU, which translates to Peacock. Um, we chatted to him about all manner of things, including cinematography and casting and the way it's been received and sort of marketed, and about the Horror Fest screening on the 21st of November. There was a bit of a snafu with the beginning of the recording. So for the first 10 minutes, there isn't actually any visuals of the conversation. But we decided to leave it in because the conversation itself was quite good. Yaku is a very interesting guy, very interesting director, and had very insightful things to say about the film. So, yeah, have fun, stick around. If you do enjoy the interview, give us a subscribe. We would really appreciate it. We're a tiny, tiny, tiny channel, and any help is appreciated. Thanks. Anyway, bye. So, Yaku, this is your debut film, I believe.
Yes, first feature, debut feature film. So very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
A long and very difficult process and road to
Yeah.
get to where we are now, to have the film out finally. But it's very exciting to have it out and get it in front of audiences and yeah, see what people make of it.
Okay. Because that was going to be one of the questions I was going to ask. How long did it take to actually make this film? And was it something that you've wanted to make for a while, or was this a sort of a recent kind of idea that came to you?
I mean, when I started working on it, it wasn't something that had been kicking around for a long time. Like I first got the idea and kind of wrote it down as a kind of short story-ish with the idea of possibly turning it into a short film, which didn't quite materialize because I just felt like the story was bigger than really could fit into a short film, would take a lot of money and effort to kind of make as a short film. So he just kind of left it and went on making another short film. And then after that, my writing partner that I made the other film with, we were both kind of, okay, cool, we're ready to do something big. So that story that I had just felt like, cool, this is still a story that is there. It wasn't very well developed, but there were some cool ideas there that I thought like let's maybe take that one. So it wasn't lying around for a long time. It was maybe a year or so that I had the idea, and then we started working on it in earnest, writing the script. And basically from that time till now is I don't know, more than 7 years.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it has been a very long process. Getting money, getting funding, that kind of thing took a long time after we had kind of the script in a place that we liked it. And then yeah, then like it took a while from kind of securing some kind of funding to figure out exactly how it's all going to fall in place, because we got some money and not all of it. And then suddenly it just happened, and we shot the film. And then as soon as we shot it, COVID hit. So then it was quite difficult. Sorry, maybe I'm like running very much ahead, but then it was quite difficult because then I was here in Cape Town and the rest of the team were all in Joburg. So then the whole COVID, like trying to go into post production through COVID was difficult. So it took a long time. Once it was out, once it was done, figuring out where it's going to go and finding a place for this weird film also took a long time. So the whole everything was just kind of difficult.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to ask, because I was looking through I was looking through everybody's Instagram posts about the film, and somebody mentioned, like, I think it was Taryn mentioned that, okay, so this film that she finished working on in 2019 is now finally getting released, and that was last year, November sometime, I think.
Yeah.
Or No, I think I'm confusing two Instagram posts because I think the last time we spoke about the film was about 2021, about round about November,
Yeah.
when you were still looking into distribution.
Yeah, it like from like we had a kind of distribution deal from the beginning, kind of even before we shot. We had this deal with Indigenous Film Distribution to do something with it. But then, yeah, as I said, the post production process was long and difficult, and lots of back and forths and fights
Yeah.
and so on, because I didn't have Final Cut. But yeah, then once the film was done, it took another long time for Indigenous to find a home for it, and for us to figure out how we're going to approach the festival strategy, and start getting things out in that way, and so on. So everything is just slow, and I guess it had a lot to do with the film being what it is, a kind of odd Afrikaans gothic horror that is already something that doesn't have yeah, isn't the most popular of genres, but then doing it in Afrikaans as well, like what do you do with this thing, was like a bit of a head scratcher for everybody, but luckily it's found some places, and hopefully it'll go out and find a few more places in the world.
Okay. Yeah, so I was going to ask about that as well. So, this is kind of a two-parter. So, why make an Afrikaans film? And then the follow-up would be, why make this film in Afrikaans?
Okay, so I guess making an Afrikaans film, I mean, I am Afrikaans, so it like in that way it makes sense. But at the same time, yes, I can understand, like most films that I consume and have watched and liked throughout my life are not Afrikaans. It's not like we have a very strong tradition of interesting films. Yet I guess the thing was specifically because of the film. So the two answers kind of actually one thing.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to make well, this specific story I think is about Afrikaans culture. It is taking a look at where I come from, where we come from, our kind of history in this country in the last yeah, like I don't know, 100 years of like the rise of Afrikaner kind of culture and so on. So we wanted to kind of investigate that a little bit, and we wanted to do that from a different perspective. And so like it wouldn't make sense to not make it in Afrikaans. If you're going to tell this kind of story, you have to kind of tell it in because we wanted to kind of go from the inside out. So you kind of dive deep inside, and then I bring out something, tell something. So it needed
Sure.
to be in Afrikaans, and then also just I thought it would be interesting. It would be like this kind of oddity, I guess, in the kind of broader international film landscape, to have this Afrikaans Gothic. I don't know. I just like the idea. It sounded cool to me. Why the fuck not? You know.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to ask about in terms of that, in terms of the subject matter, is it's also a very queer film.
Yeah.
And obviously Afrikaans has a difficult relationship with queer subjects. Like volksvriend is a known term for a reason. But there's also lots of like the film deals with a lot of that sort of gender and orientation as part of its theme. Was that also maybe part of why you decided to make this in Afrikaans, or was that just
Yeah,
something?
definitely. Again, that is part of the thing that just it kind of came out of the characters and of the world of the story and that kind of thing. And yeah, the gender and the queer themes are very strong there, but it fits in also overall into kind of larger themes just around sexuality, which fits into larger themes just around repression and that kind of thing. And I think once you start scratching the surface of the Afrikaans culture, it's not going to take you very long to get to a place of repression. Specifically, if you start looking at these kind of patriarchal figures that did kind of have this strong iron fist approach to leading the culture and building the nation and that kind of thing. So repression is like it's kind of immediately there. So these things all fit into that. And but the cool thing is that yes, it is something very specific of the Afrikaner culture, and like it fit into making the story in Afrikaans, but then it also just fits into a broader kind of I guess a kind of stream of specifically the Gothic and then also specific kind of moments within Gothic film and so on that we were specifically influenced by. So these themes were things that there's a precedent for that, exploring that in the Gothic. So it also fit very nicely with making an Afrikaans film and looking at these things. So all these things just kind of came together to kind of guide us into what kind of film it was that we should make or wanted to make in the end.
Okay. So I mean so the marketing material for the Horror Fest, where this film is showing on the Monday the 21st, describes this as an Afrikaans Gothic horror film. So you agree with that kind of classification, as it were?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's like the Gothic was definitely something that we consciously kind of delved into that was influential on us. So I would say, in a sense, it's maybe more a Gothic drama, but yeah, I mean, there's surely the horror aspects, horror and Gothic are kind of go hand in hand. I guess that's where the horror comes from. So yes, I think it's definitely a Gothic, an Afrikaans Gothic.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, that's probably. I mean, that does make sense to be showing this film at the Horror Fest, I think. How did that kind of come about? How did it come about that you're going to screen this film at the Horror Fest?
Well, we kind of teamed up with this person who calls herself the festival doctor, who takes films and like kind of runs a festival campaign for you, puts feelers out and sends the film off to different festivals and so on. So it was through her. She hooked us up or approached the Horror Fest and sent the film off to them, and we were lucky enough to be included. So very happy about that. It's nice to show the film in Cape Town, where I'm from, and like hopefully people come and we get some kind of reaction. We see what people think of it.
Yeah, and I mean it's going to be interesting to see this obviously with the cast and crew, because I know you had a screening at the Labia. I think was it the debut screening with the cast and crew? I think that was just for cast and crew, wasn't it? Or was it
Yeah,
open to the public?
it was a small private screening at the Labia, cast and crew mostly, then some press, friends and family. So it was a kind of a closed small thing. But yeah, we filled up the space, but yeah, it was super fun. But that was the only kind of public screening or public-ish screening we've had. So I'm very excited to. Well, we've had a few others in international festivals, but I was unfortunately not able to attend those. So it goes beyond our budgetary constraints.
Okay, so I mean, you mentioned festivals now. It has been screening in a number of global festivals. So Razor Reel, I know. I also know that Leon van Nierop wrote a very nice, very very positive review of the film, like a very well known South African film reviewer of long standing. Has the film been well received globally?
Yeah, it's difficult to say. I think so. I mean, yeah, we showed in competition in a couple of festivals. It's difficult to know when you're not there to really know what the reaction is. Um, so I mean, it's still kind of in the beginning of the festival run, so we'll see where it goes from here. So I guess most of the kind of critical reactions and stuff we've got has been local, because the film has come out on Prime Video,
Yeah.
so people have been able to see it there and react to it, because I guess festival audiences, it's quite small, so it depends on who go, yeah, what happens. But hopefully we'll get to see more international reaction. It was always a film that we had hoped to get out to an international audience, to kind of, yeah, I don't know, tell a local story in an interesting way. So we'll see. But yeah, so we've got a few really nice reviews. Um, and one or two bad ones, but I guess it's always good to
How dare
to
they?
yeah, exactly. No, it's fine. I mean, you don't want universal praise, whatever. I don't
Fair enough. So, in terms of the screening on Prime, which is obviously I had to watch it on Prime because I couldn't talk to you about the film if I hadn't seen the film yet. So I was glad that I could see it, and I was impressed with the quality of the subtitles, at least. So at least on that from that level, it'll like an international audience will be able to understand what's going on in the storyline, and I think they'll be able to like I suspect that they'll be able to kind of get a lot of what the film is about. Are you worried maybe that some people won't understand maybe some of the most Afrikaans culture sort of aspects of the film, or is that kind of just it's just something you could just have to be happy with?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I guess like I guess that is something that was always a worry, I guess, specifically for our producers and distributors and so on. It's not something that I can worry too much about. I feel like you want to make
Yeah.
something authentic, and you want to make it like really, yeah, like I don't know, if you're going to do something like this, you do it properly. You can't like worry that, oh, what are people going to think, etc. So yeah, I think we did, like, because me and my writing partner, we did the subtitling as well, because we kind of wrote the script originally
Okay.
in both English and Afrikaans, just because we knew we were going to make it in Afrikaans, but we pitched it in a lot of different places just so that the script's accessible. So so yeah, we worked on that together and tried to get it right, as close as possible, which isn't really possible, because we also work with a kind of heightened and a slightly archaic Afrikaans, which is not really the way people even speak at the moment. So a lot of those things are quite difficult to to really get right in an English translation. But I think, yeah, I think it gets as close as it can kind of get. Um, and yeah, hopefully people get it. And if they don't quite understand everything in terms of the cultural references and that kind of thing, hopefully there's enough in terms of story and in terms of like atmosphere and that kind of thing to carry them through and
Okay.
enjoy the film for, yeah, in its own terms, just as an atmospheric kind of gothic film. And maybe, it like if we're really lucky, it gets one or two people to just go, okay, so what the fuck really happened in that place? That what are these people on about? So who knows?
Okay. Yeah, I mean it I don't know if I was expecting it to be as like deeply embedded in Afrikaans culture as what it was, but there were definitely parts of it where it was like this feels way too familiar for me for comfort. This is making me feel very, very uncomfortable that I have to watch this. But I promised you
Good.
that I was going to see the film.
Yeah.
Um, like the gerontocracy, like the rule by all the old people. And obviously the casting is fantastic, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But like what I liked was that the fact that the doctor Alida Basson, I mean not so Alida who Alida Tehran who plays Dr. Basson, um, she's as she's as unpleasant as Sarl is in her own sort of way. She's very much like the female equivalent of the patriarchy. She's very much invested in these power structures that exist, and
Yeah.
she's not sympathetic to Anna at all. You
Yeah.
know, she's as happy to tell her that she's an awful person. Um, so was that something that you planned, or was that just something that kind of came out of the script writing?
Well, I guess, yeah, I mean, most things come out of the writing process, but it did become clear to us, like in developing the character, that she has to be a kind of true believer. You know, she has to toe the line, and that kind of thing, and like full on an ally for Sarl, for this, just for the story to work and that kind of thing. But it also, I feel like, also something that is kind of true in a sense. I like, it's not like a couple of generations before, in South Africa, women were feminist and like kind of keen to fight the patriarchy or whatever, and were like kind of standing for change and that kind of thing. And like, yeah, no. I mean, she's also, I guess, ambitious in her kind of way. So, or were so. She's right in
Anna, ek praat met jou.
there.
Um, yeah, so I mean they were great. So I mean, obviously the casting and the performances are top notch. Um, Tell us a little bit more about the casting process. Were you looking for something very specific, or did you leave it up to actors to try and to kind of convince you that they had a good take on the part?
Yeah, I mean, I had a strong idea of the characters, like what they kind of had to be and kind of represent, and what kind of performances I would like out of it. But at the same time, yes, it is always up to what people bring to the table. It's everything changes once you actually have a person saying the lines and like embodying the character and that kind of thing. So. Yes, we had clear ideas of what kind of people we were looking for, but then it's going in and going through a casting process, which was quite interesting. I had a great casting director, Belinda Creer, who kind of came on early, liked the script, and she was a joy to work with. Really got what it was that we tried to do, and she also has a really yeah, she knows everybody in the industry, has a really good idea of what they can bring to the table. So so that was really great. In terms of Anna, our lead character, that was it was difficult in one sense because there's a lot of really talented young actresses like vying to get roles in this country, and so we saw a lot of different people for that part. But yeah, it was really cool. Belinda went to the uh, Silver Scarum Fierce, and she kind of just saw Taryn there from a distance, and like called me up and said, "I found our girl." And yeah, so after we had already seen a bunch of people, Taryn came in and she just blew our socks off. She was just like so right for the
Yeah.
part. Um, and then yeah. then there's the opposite with the old man Sarl. There was not a lot of actors still really of that age that are strong enough to work and take on a role like this. And then at the same time, not many of them that was willing to take on the challenge to do that. It is a challenging role. It does demand a kind of a lot of them kind of showing themselves in kind of less flattering lights and that kind of thing. But Johan Mbueta was such a joy, and he was so ready to take this on. And from the moment I saw his first self-tape audition, he just, like, I knew he was right. I drove out to see him in Carletsdorp, meet him and Lida on the farm. They cooked me a beautiful lunch and we chatted all day, drank some wine, and yeah, at the end of the day, hugged each other and knew we were going to make a great film together. So that was a really nice story. Yeah, and then Belinda really brought us for all the other characters good few options, and we were lucky enough to find really the right people, I think, for all of the parts.
Yes, I mean, I think we've spoken about the major sort of characters in the film, and obviously it for a lot of the film it does feel a bit like a two-hander, because Anna and Sarl are very important characters in the film, and I mean they also do spend a lot of time engaging with each other, and there's a lot of the story that happens between those two characters, because it's almost a confrontation between those two generations and those two ways of viewing the world.
Yeah.
And it never feels staged in that way. But I mean, there's also like there's actually quite a rich cast of supporting characters. I'm thinking of Jean, Dr. Basson's grandson. There's Nicola Hanekom, who plays Sister Ptolemy. She's got a great role, because that completely encapsulates that sort of institutional kind of thinking and I know enough people who've been in various state-run institutions in South Africa that feels very authentic, like that sort of like slapping people on the knuckle, on the open hand with the wooden ruler. I mean, how did you, in the script, I mean, how did you balance the sort of intimacy of the scenes between Anna and Sarl and the rest of the story? Because it's obviously it's taking place in the context of something else that's also been happening over time. I mean, this story has a history. Anna has a history. Sarl has a history.
Yeah. Yeah. So those two worlds were kind of kind of separate. It's almost like, okay, so Anna has a story, and then she gets sent away and she kind of starts a whole new chapter, just with this little crossover in between these two worlds. She finds like this moment that is kind of a moment of freedom that kind of leads to a lot of things towards the end. Yeah, so those were two kind of separate little stories almost. And in the original script, yeah, the structure was slightly different. It was more like, okay, here you have the one, then we move over to the next world, and it became kind of much more enmeshed through the filmmaking process. But yeah, so I guess that's how it was balanced. It was like, okay, cool, we're telling this part of the story, and how does that then, and then that leads us to the next part of the story. So yeah, so like, and we needed to have her world, where she comes from, quite rich with rich characters, for it to kind of inform where she goes to, and to create the whole kind of milieu that she is into with Sarl as well. Because in the end, like, he is the creator of that world that she comes from. So we had to set that up really strongly for it to make sense, like who he really is, because he's very much like a kind of puppet master, although a kind of ailing and like lost control of the strings at this point, puppet master, but in his day.
Yeah, I mean it does. I think having the scenes at the foundation be so well grounded in a reality makes it um, it almost adds to the tension when she goes out to this isolated farm and there's no way of contacting anybody. No one's trying to get hold of her. She can't get hold of anybody else, and she is basically alone. Even if anything bad happens, she's reliant on people coming to the farm. Um, um, so, I mean, I think that kind of brings us to the question of that house. So, how did you find it, and what were you looking for?
Yeah, so the house was a kind of was a lucky find. Originally, the idea was to set this out in probably the Karoo, so where it is kind of for that kind of landscape to kind of be have a very strong kind of texture and to bring something in terms of the isolation of it, and so on. So I spent a lot of time driving around the Karoo looking for the right farmhouse, because we always wrote it with it being a double-story house, because we needed to have these different levels where things take place. Now it's almost impossible to find a double-story house in the Karoo, and
Okay.
then to find one that is kind of old and like a little bit dilapidated, and not kind of modernized, it's much more difficult. So a lot of time I just drove around, like going to farms, trying to find a cool farmhouse, even if it's not double story, just find anything. But yeah, I don't know. Then through production, even the ones that I did find that could possibly work, it just became financially almost impossible to shoot out in the Karoo. Just makes things very expensive. And then the whole through with just the way things fell into place, production moved to Joburg, and our production coordinator Peter Grobbelaar, and our production designer, they kind of started throwing ideas together, and yeah, knew about this house outside Joburg, outside Heidelberg, in Gauteng, and it was like, cool, let's just go check it out. It is an amazing place. Maybe we can make it happen. And we went out there, and it is just this like fantastic kind of old, beautiful place that has been so well preserved, like from the furniture to the furnishings, to that bath. It is a house that has the first flushing toilet in South Africa, that is
Oh wow, okay.
still in place. So like it really was this house that was built by like the first kind of riches in the Vaal. So
Yeah.
this house was built before Joburg was even a thing. So it's a super special place. But there were some issues with it. It didn't, for instance, have double story. So we had to kind of build in a fake attic, and quickly rewrite the script in the weeks building up to the shoot, to kind of refit things with the house that we actually have, and so on. So the location had to do a lot of work, and we had to make a lot of things fit around the final location that we had, just to make it all come together nicely.
Okay, so you didn't have budget to build a whole separate house just for yourself to film in.
Unfortunately not. But we did build the staircase, and we built like the whole and the door that's supposed to lead to the attic, and then the whole attic room was a set that we built in a swimming pool in Joburg.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic house, and I was talking to my partner about it, and he was saying it's almost like it's a character of its own in
Definitely.
the script.
Yeah.
But I mean, if those walls could talk, um,
Yeah.
it would be it would be a very interesting conversation, I think. And I think the other, yeah, I mean, you did mention the bath, which kind of in a roundabout way brings us to something else I wanted to talk about, which was the intimacy coordinator.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first time I heard about this film was actually from an article, and we'll post the link um, below, um, where they spoke to you about like using an intimacy coordinator for this film, and actually sitting down with the actors and making sure everybody was comfortable with what everything that was going to happen and what they were going to do. So what was it what was about this film that made you think I'm going to need to get someone professional in to come and make sure that everyone here does feel safe and looked after, basically?
Okay, so yeah, we were actually the first South African film to use an intimacy coordinator, and yeah, Sarah Bletcher. We worked with her, and she was amazing, amazing filmmaker, but then also so great ally to have on set. Um, but yeah, I guess because we were telling a story about a young woman, and it thematically it is like story wise, it is very much about her sexuality, and like placing it within this kind of culture. We had a bunch of scenes in there that is intimate scenes, both yeah, solo and with partners. We yeah, like, and because we are kind of two white men. We didn't just want to assume that it would be okay for us to make these things and have something specific to say, using a kind of young female character. So I guess. Sure, you don't want to get yourself into trouble, but also it would make my job easier if I don't have to worry about that, if there is somebody along for the ride to make sure that everybody is comfortable and that everybody has given consent to everything that they're going to do on screen, and to everything that they're going to do with each other on screen, and that kind of thing. So and that ended up being like a really valuable and really interesting and useful experience, both for myself and for some of the actors that we had in the film, and it brought out a lot of things for people to go through that experience, to talk openly about these things, to give consent to, and like. I don't know. It kind of became a space where people discussed sexuality and so on. So it was kind of almost liberating, um, yeah, just to work with an intimacy coordinator, and to work things through that. So it was a cool process. But yeah, I don't know. It just felt like the right thing to do. The opportunity presented itself because where just before we shot, Sarah and like some of her colleagues had just kind of come back from I think the UK, where they had done these courses in intimacy coordination and wanted to establish themselves. And we just, yeah, our paths crossed, and it was exactly what we needed, and what we wanted to do, and so on.
Okay, yeah, because I
I
mean,
mean, like, if you're going to talk about sexuality and that kind of thing, you don't want to, I don't know, be part of the problem in the end, you know.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you were talking about casting Sarl, and you were talking about having the conversations and trying to find an actor who of a certain age who'd be like happy to do a particular kind of those particular scenes. Because when I was watching the film, obviously, as having knowing ahead of time, okay, that there is sexual content in the film, but there's also been this whole process of making sure that everybody on screen was consenting and happy with what was going to be filmed and what was going to actually be happening to their bodies. It made it as an audience member, it made me feel less. It's made me feel more comfortable watching those particular scenes because I was like, okay, well, at least I'm not watching somebody's trauma being recorded for entertainment.
Yes, exactly.
So that definitely helped for me. But what you were saying in terms of the casting Sarl, there's also that I suppose that sort of issue where not all white males are as comfortable with like what they look like because okay, so maybe you're older, maybe you don't look the way you used to do. Maybe this is not the nude scene that you had in mind when you may have started your career. Um, so I mean, how did you handle the intimacy coordinator? Was that from what you were saying now, it sounded like he would also have benefited from that conversation.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, he had. Yeah, I think he definitely did. I think in a sense, getting to that age, he's probably gone through all of the possible hangups with his body that he could. So he was um, and I think he's also just like he's a liberated person, whatever. So he didn't have too many issues around having to play these scenes. But at the same time, it is vulnerable. He does have to put himself in that position. It is intimate with his scene partner and that kind of thing. And he has to expose, something about himself. But so I think, yeah, for him as well, there was a certain comfort there in like going through the process of like rehearsing these scenes so that everybody knows exactly how it's going to go down. That yeah, he knows what his part is. The other person knows, Tara knows what her part is, and yeah, when it gets to the day, it's there's much less nerves around it. All you have to handle is the fact that you're now standing naked in front of a bunch of people. But we kept those scenes were all shot very intimately. Nobody was in the room that wasn't 100% essential, that wasn't handling a camera or holding a microphone. So for a lot of that stuff, I wasn't even in the room either. I had my little monitor and I was just outside the door so I could communicate and watch the scene there. So it was really just the essential people there. So it made it like much more easier and so on for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, especially like in the last say 5-10 years, has I've if you once you start reading, okay, so about the making of this film that you really loved, and then it's like, oh wow, okay, that's what that situation was like on that set. Oh, that's what
Yeah,
that director did to this person. It's like, oh, this person was traumatized for life after making this film and never did anything again. you
yeah,
know and then at the same time reading all these articles with like interviews with like actors that you respected being like, I don't see the need for any of this stuff, all this woke nonsense, blah 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 blah. And it's like, well, you know it's that's nice for you. um
yeah.
but I mean, have you been surprised by anybody in particular's response to this idea of using an intimacy coordinator, or was it?
Well, I guess yeah, as you say, it is kind of disappointing when there's people who you respect and they kind of like push against this. Um, but whatever. I mean, yeah, people can have their ideas, and maybe something will happen in the future for them where they yeah, their eyes are open about it. For me, just like it's also just about creating a comfortable working environment and getting the best out of the people that you're working with, and so on. I mean, also working on the budget that we are working on, it means that we're very constrained in terms of time, and so on. So there's no time for people to have, again, breakdowns, and for things to go wrong, and for I don't know, having to like, it's just it has to work, and it has to work in the moment, and so on. And like, cool, I can get that there's something you need to push people to get the best out of them, but at the same time I feel like you can get really good things out of people if you're all working together, and you create like a stimulating, safe work environment, where people understand what it is that they need to do. You don't need to kind of, like, I don't know, hit somebody in the face with a plank to get them to show pain on screen or whatever. People are trained to do these kind of things, and if you can kind of guide them towards what it is that you need, then why do you need to I don't know, be a dick about it, or like traumatize them for it? I don't know. It's a weird thing, and maybe I don't have enough experience to know. But geez, it just, yeah, it seems to me like a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean,
And yeah,
now that you,
sorry,
I mean,
I'll
now that
stop talking.
like the idea now seems so obvious. Like, why wouldn't you have these conversations ahead of time?
Yeah,
Because then at least you don't on the day have to have those fights, like you're saying. And okay, well, now we're gonna have to we have to ditch this shot or the scene or whatever. Um,
yeah. Or
so
for the next 3 days afterwards, you're getting like shit out of people because they are just reeling from this
yeah,
ordeal and so on. I mean, there's enough of that anyway. Like like people have to bring you real emotions on camera, and
yeah.
it has an effect, and it is super stressful. So it's like it's constantly like dealing with enough shit. I don't need more, you know.
You don't need, you're not making it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask about that nurse's outfit. Um, the is that based on a historical reference? Um, or is that an actual nurse's outfit from some era or something? Or where did you find that dress? Because it there is a scene later on in the film, which I'm not going to talk about, where that uniform becomes very important.
Yeah.
Um,
No, well, it wasn't based on any specific historical uniforms and so on. I guess that kind of pinafore style of dresses was often used. It is kind of in a style of nurses' uniforms overall, but those uniforms were all made for us by our costume designer. Um, I don't know. I found, like, I mean, obviously during my preparation, I had a bunch of references and things that I gave to our designers, and worked close with everybody. Each member of the team brought something to the table. I always had something that I gave them, and then worked through getting to the final place. But yeah, like it was. Um, yeah, it was just like a beautiful design, and like and yeah, that's basically it. We got had them all made, and we thought, yeah, it works. It was super exciting first day when those dresses were came out, those costumes, and we saw everybody in them. It was very nice.
I don't. We can't really talk about the film without talking about the cinematography. Um,
Yeah,
it's got a very specific look. Um, the Afrikaans word "val" comes to mind, but it does match theme and the subject matter quite well. It's that this idea of being slightly out of the past, slightly caught somewhere in this sort of strange time period that you're not quite sure when this is happening. You're not quite sure when which era this house is from, or which era Sorrel is from. Like it's easy to forget how recent some of this sort of history is, and how old some of the history is. So it's in this weird sort of liminal space where you're not sure what's going on. And then obviously there's the subject matter of the peacock or the POU, that's very sort of colorful and very sort of very obviously it's a key symbol in your film. And then also with the scenes back at the foundation where it's all the water, like when the swimming pool also features quite prominently in the story. And it emphasizes the contrast between those two sort of periods in her life. But what was the instruction, or what was the feeling you wanted to evoke with the cinematography?
Okay, yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot there that you discussed in your question, but yeah, I guess cinematography wise, atmosphere was super important. It like we did feel like, as much as we have a particular and a strong story that we're telling, it was also how we're telling it, and the atmosphere was absolutely key. Not just because it makes for a nice film, but it's also something that is part of the genre there. Like the Gothic is very much about atmosphere and whatever. So those things were always part of the whole thing from the very beginning. So we wanted to create a very specific atmosphere through the images. But those things that you're talking about is definitely there from the beginning. This idea of time, and like where exactly this when exactly this film is set, but then also the liminality of it, the dreaminess of it, because it is something. It is always like the more time she spends on this farm, the more kind of adrift she gets. So that kind of liminality is super important, like the kind of mixture of the dreams and the reality and that kind of thing. So so the cinematography had to kind of reflect that. So we wanted to bring that in. And then like I guess there is also a kind of a feeling that I just have in terms of South Africa, the history, and like and so on, that I wanted to bring out in the cinematography, that kind of high felt grassland kind of fallness that can come through sometimes. So yeah, all of those things kind of played a part in creating the visuals of the space. Yeah, of the film.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. I mean, like you said, it was it was a long and complicated thing. But I mean, yeah, for me, I really like those contrasts between, like, there's this there was this possibility that existed for a brief moment in her life, and then something happens. I'm not going to say what, but something happens, and that is yanked basically away, and then suddenly she's in this sort of weird other worldly realm when nothing seems to be alive. I mean, there's the birds and there's the peacock, but they're all sort of, there's also something very disturbing about how they're presented. I mean, Sorrel has I'm not going to spoil his best the best thing about in the screening, but like he does not like the birds at all. Um, and the birds do feature like quite prominently throughout, not just the peacock, but the sort of these other blackbirds as well. Um, so I thought that was a very interesting choice, and I do love the cinematography quite a lot because it does I feel pull you into that kind of a weird world where I kind of imagine how this is how the voortrekkers would have almost seen the world. It's like everything's dark and horrible and coming to get you, and you're surrounded on all sides by this evil, die bose gaan jou kom haal.
Yeah,
And it's this sort of this paranoia that just sort of permeates every aspect of his life. And then
yeah,
you find out as you go on, okay, so you kind of had that. I can kind of see where the paranoia comes from. It's, you know, it's not undeserved.
yeah, for sure.
Um, but yeah, Sorrel is such a doers. I think it was about like 20 minutes in. I was like, I hope something horrible happens to all of these people, like to the doctor and to Sorrel. These awful human beings.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
I think that speaks to the quality of the acting as well. And those are thankless roles often. Um, like no one wants, no one. I don't know how the actors kind of responded to like what do they kind of expect people are gonna think think about these people that they're portraying.
yeah.
Um, um, so I
But yeah, I
think
just wanted to quickly give a shout out to Jonathan Koval, our cinematographer. Just think
yeah
he did a super amazing job. Yeah, great guy to work with. Yeah, just like a real poet and artist who really kind of understood what it is that I wanted to do, and really, yeah, just have brought this kind of painter's touch to everything. So that was wonderful, and great for somebody who's not South African originally to really get this this feeling and this atmosphere and really run with it, which is
yeah
super cool.
yeah. I mean, it's the cinematography that evokes like Blue to the Fear. If I mean, it's
Yeah,
maybe like a dark image, but it's like if the footackers had to film themselves and their idea of how that whole thing went down, I think that's the sort of color palette that they would present, and there would be this like scene at the end with this with a light from God shining down at them, because obviously God and nation building. Um, so yeah, I have to say I wasn't expecting
yeah,
as much of the Afrikaner nationalism to feature in terms of the theme and the story, but obviously, having seen the whole film, it does make sense. Um, what was it like co-writing the script? Um, and I'm thinking especially of the central kind of fable of the this peacock that Sorrel tells Anna, sorry, at one point in the film. Um, how is it? How did you split the work? Um,
yeah. So that was, I mean, um, I really love writing this with my partner David Cornwell. He's super talented writer, but also just great guy to work with. I think we understand each other quite well. Um, yeah, our tastes overlap to a large extent, although there's many places where we yeah divert and so on. But we understand each other and we know what it is that yeah we can communicate well. But so we like our initial thing was going away for a weekend. We rented this little um, uh, like cabin in the middle of nowhere with literally bats in the chimney,
Oh,
and like just spent a weekend writing the outline of the story. And then from there it was kind of like finding moments where we can like get together. We spend another weekend writing on it, just having these moments coming together, working together. So like we mostly work together, and it's super great because it's all about we talking through things and like acting things out and like just like building each other up the whole time. So it's a super energetic time where we're just like feeding off each other, and it's so great because there's always somebody to reflect your ideas off of, and you know immediately whether it lands or not. Sometimes even before
mm,
they need to say something, he can say something, and even before a reply, he knows, okay, that doesn't work. Or sometimes like it takes a bit of like discussion and like fighting for your idea to decide whether it works or not, and that kind of thing, or it just sparks something else. So there's a lot of like energy and back and forth in those times of writing together. Um, so David's also really good at writing. So like we can talk through things, and he's like getting it down, and that kind of thing. And then there was also periods where, for instance, a lot of Sarl's kind of, what's the word, proselytizing or whatever, all those kind of speeches that he makes, and like overbearing kind of bullshit that he spews, was stuff that I kind of wrote by myself. And so, and because I wanted to write that in Afrikaans and
okay.
like and just like kind of sit with it a little bit, so it just felt like it would really come out better if I because David's also not Afrikaans, so
Okay.
I needed to just like kind of dive into deeply all these old fucks that I knew to yeah to get to that stuff. But yeah, mostly we kind of rewrites we did together. We just kind of spent a lot of time doing it. So it's a lot of fun going through that process, and we are doing it again.
Yeah, I mean the dialogue is great. And there's the one scene in the church where they all go to Sunday service. And I think my favorite part of that church scene is the preacher at the standing behind Sarl on the podium. And he's sort of nodding very sagely along with what he's saying, and then something happens, and it's like, should I be nodding anymore? But it felt very authentic. I mean, I've been around religious people a long time. My grandfather was the head of the NG Kerk in Bloemfontein, and it really does feel very authentic to that kind of
Okay.
that kind of mentality of this is how the world works. This is how I want the world to continue working for the foreseeable future, and I won't allow anybody to get in the way of that. So that was great.
Yeah.
Um, I really love that turn that happens. And yeah. So I don't want to give away too much of the actual storyline, because I do actually want people to go watch your film. It is showing on the 21st at the Labia in Cape Town. Um, if people are in Joburg and they can't come down, that it is showing on Amazon Prime Video. Where is it? It's just the local. Where on Amazon is it showing? Do you know which sort of regions?
It's just Africa, so the entire Africa.
Okay.
But yeah, so far we don't have any international deals yet, apart from
Yeah.
the festivals. That's yeah, about the only international screens we have.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Um,
something will come.
and then on a different note, when are you going to get an IMDb page for the film? Do you know?
Oh, there's an IMDb page.
Is
Yeah,
there?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Um,
looked for it yesterday, but I couldn't find it.
there's like such POU Peacock 2022. I'm sure you'll get it. IMDb.
Okay. Oh, there we go. I don't know why I couldn't find it yesterday. There we go.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and then yeah, we have the Instagram and so on places
Mm.
where people can check things out as
Yeah,
well.
so I'll post a couple of those links at the end of the video as well, just so people can kind of check out some more of the publicity for the film. Um, but yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed your film. I thought it was a very cogent, very critical, very smart look at a lot of Afrikaner paternalism. I think is a good word. It's not even patriarchy. It's sort of the sort of paternalist attitude to this continent and its people and our place in it, and the sort of very sort of religious fundamentalist view of how how we fit in it and what our role is supposed to be as white people in this country. Um, what is the if you could say, if you could give us one question that you wish an interviewer would ask you about this film, like what would it be? Because we've spoken about the cast, the crew, the writing, the location, the costume design, cinematography. Um, is there anything about this film that you're particularly proud of that people you think haven't noticed enough yet?
Um, no, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, I haven't like because it's so new and like we've had like the one screening. I haven't really had that much kind of a proper feedback. Like the couple of really nice reviews that we got from Spling and Leon van Nierop and so on really felt like okay, people see what it is. Um, so I don't know if there's anything specific that I wish people would ask. I guess one thing that we didn't discuss so much was a little bit of the visual effects. We did talk about the just the building of the set, but I think we did a lot of we got a really nice production design work out, a lot of beautiful details just in terms of all those kind of paperwork and like things that was in the house. And I think those things are often it's easy to overlook just how much work and effort went into to doing that, getting all those things down, getting the costumes, building, getting the set to exactly where we wanted it to be. And then like a few kind of beautiful visual effects, all done by Luma Studios in Joburg. I think they did a particularly good job. And so on. So yeah, we were very lucky with that. But I don't know if there's any really specific question that I feel like I'm just yeah, I'm excited to really see what people make of it. And it's nice to see that you at least kind of get what it what it was all about and get the feeling of that just the horror of this yeah, all
Yeah,
this stuff that it the film.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you were just talking about production design. I think the only times you really notice that kind of stuff is if when it's badly done. Um,
Yeah,
um, in this film, everything looks very, very much like it belongs where everything looks like it belongs where it should be, is where it should. Everything
yeah,
looks like it's where it belongs. If I can say an English
yeah,
sentence correctly. Um, um,
yeah.
so
Yeah, I mean, there's like a couple of people that were kind of could be bowled out by um, just like the kind of eclectic time stuff, and that like it doesn't like they couldn't figure out when it was set, and like it really bothered them. It's like, why the fuck does she have that old flip phone, and like why does the cars and the outfits and stuff look like that, and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think it adds something thematically to the whole.
Well, I mean, I think it's appropriate enough for a gothic horror that the cinematography and the set design and the costume design and the set dressing and all that stuff reflects a state of mind rather than like a fixed historical moment. Because you are talking about things that are deeper than just like this moment. This is what's happening right now. You're also looking at, well, this is kind of the mindscape that these people are inhabiting. So, and I actually really like that was my favorite part, one of my favorite parts of the film, apart from the performances. I suppose, yeah. So just in terms of where you've come from and where you're going. So this was your first feature film. What other work can people see that you've done so far? And then the follow-up question will be, what are you working on right now that people should be looking forward to in the future?
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, it took me a long time to get to the place where I felt ready to make this film. I've done a bunch of things as floating around, short films, music videos, that kind of thing. I guess one thing that's easily accessible is a film that I made a few years ago for Silver Scarab called The Honor Spit that people can watch on Showmax. It's a fun little comedy, crime comedy. But then I don't know, like it feels like everything that I did in the past doesn't really matter anymore. So it's all about moving forward. So yeah, at the moment, I my next kind of big project is a that I'm again writing with David Cornwell. Is a kind of let's call it science fiction horror. It's maybe a little bit of a classic weird tale. So we're diving into the kind of weird fiction side of things with aliens and body snatching and yeah, things just going awry. So that's kind of a fun thing to look forward to. It's still a while away, but hopefully we can get things rolling soon and actually get money and get it off the ground, and then it doesn't have to take 7 years again, because that would drive me crazy.
Yeah, that would be nice, and then hopefully we can show that with the horror fest at that point.
Yeah, for sure, that would be great. It's like a Lovecraft meets Rosemary's Baby meets Arrival.
Okay, very good. Very good. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, I think we've covered most of what I wanted to ask about. So yeah, dankie.
Yeah, I think we did well.
Yeah,
bye, dankie.
It was a long time in the making, and I'm glad that it exists and it's out there and people can go watch it.
Sorry.
Yeah. So baie dankie vir jou tyd.
Thanks so much for doing this. I'm glad I could do it. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing everybody at the Horror Fest.
Oh yeah. Cool. So yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna say thank you very much for your time. Looking forward to seeing you at the screening. Good luck with your current and your future projects. We hope to see a lot more of your work, and quite soon.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time.